All right, well, Kit, thank you very much for having me round your house for
You're
an episode
welcome.
of Happy Hour.
Thank you for coming.
But yeah, we've done a few things together.
Yep.
I think the last time was the auto gyro, but yeah, is that still going on?
Well, my gyro is in Deanthorpe, so sort of south of Wittering. So it's a 5-hour drive to get there. I still own half of it, but there's a couple of guys who fly it regularly. So yeah, but I am trying to get rid of it. There's a couple of gyros at Mona just down the road, so I can still use my instructor cat. But yeah, it's tailed off slightly. But
yeah. So what have you been up to since then?
Since then, been made redundant, just pre-COVID, and then found a new job at Valley. Was tempted over with the offer of potential Hawk QFI on the T2, so ended up in the sim for a year. The T2 jobs didn't come up, so I've jumped ship, and I'm now waiting for a T6 Texan QFI slot. So.
Was that the plan, or was that just
No. The plan didn't last first contact with the enemy, so it was. We had to be flexible, let's say.
Yeah. That auto gyro was fun. I did almost crap myself when you went low, and I was like, bloody hell. I was like, well, you're a Jag pilot, so you know what you're doing.
It'll be fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, and obviously everyone knows you from your Jag time. Do you miss flying the Jag?
Yeah. Do I miss flying the Jag? I miss the people.
Right.
Yeah. The Jag could be a. I mean, it was good fun. Don't get me wrong, and the role was great because it was all, a lot of low level. It was night low level, bit of sort of PGM work and stuff like that. So it was great fun, but it was a demanding jet to fly, and yeah, a bit of an ergonomic slum. If you've seen the cockpit photos, you know it's an ergonomic slum, and I think it's definitely been left behind now in terms of capability.
Yeah.
We all knew we were making up for what was essentially a 1970s trainer with some quite nasty handling characteristics.
Yeah. I can't remember if I asked you in the original interview, because obviously you were on 54 and then, weren't you? And then you went to Oman. 54,
then I did a TI. So I was tactics instructor at Valley on the T1,
right.
T1. And then I went back to 41 Squadron Jag training flight, because it was sort of a like semi-OCU type thing for guys returning to the Jag, and then I went out to Oman. So.
Did you not want to stay in the UK, like go to a different squadron, or did you just always fancy it? You thought Oman sounded pretty exciting, or?
I knew the previous incumbent in Oman, and I talked to him about it, and I actually went out there on a week's R&R just to see what it was all about, because I didn't want to commit to it before I'd seen it. And it was kind of my only way out, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So if I committed to Oman, I would get out of Valley earlier.
Right. Yeah.
Because I didn't really, I wanted to be a QY, but unfortunately the Air Force had other plans, so I went down the QFI route. So I decided, and it helped me out a lot because I only spent 2.5 years on the T1, but I learned how to do air combat. Which was something that we never really did on the Jag. So yeah, that taught me a lot, but I wanted to get out. It was the T1. It was fun in some ways, but I remember my first solo after coming back off the Jag, and it got airborne. You rush around at low level, and then you get up a little bit, and you go, "I'll just do some CAS." You go, "Oh no, I can't." "I'll just go to the tanker." "Oh no, I can't." "I'll just do no," because you've got no kit. So it's just, it's like a Lotus Elise. It'll go around corners, but then after that, it gets a bit dull. So, So yeah, Oman was great fun. I loved it. 3 years of hooning around was awesome.
There was one photo I always thought was quite funny. You look like a boy band coming on stage. It's like you and a few guys in the hangar. I think you.
Oh yeah, that was my last flight. Yeah,
it's a great photo.
That was the last flight with some of my stewards before they turn the water hoses on. That's the only enjoyable time after a flight when I've been hosed, because obviously it was 35, 40 degrees out there, and the water was actually, it's nice, especially after stepping out of the cockpit.
I can imagine, yeah. And what was it like living over there? Was it like a big cultural, getting used to?
Oh yeah, massive. But there were two. The way I viewed it was there were two types of expats. There were those who were running away from something, be it ex-wives or whatever, or the law sometimes, or those people who just wanted to go and experience something else. And I sort of parked myself in the latter, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And as long as you were respectful, things like Ramadan, you don't go around eating bacon sandwiches out in the open and stuff like that, then you're fine. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. I had a wonderful time.
Were you single at the time though?
Yeah.
That must have been easy, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it was great fun. It was, I have very, very fond memories. And, if they offered me to go back out again, I'd have to think very carefully about it, because it would be very tempting. I thoroughly enjoyed my time.
Yeah, because I know a lot of guys go out to Saudi Arabia, don't they? And the Hawk as well. I know there's a few guys there who do that. Slightly
different. That's the lure of the money.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's considerably. There's considerably better compensation.
Is it tax free over there as well? Yeah. Okay.
You can. You can go out on. You can either go out there. You leave the Air Force and go out there as a civilian contractor. Or you can go out there on secondment. Not entirely sure what the pay difference is, but it's they do beat you over the head with huge amounts of cash, because it's a different kettle of fish to it than Oman. So
yeah, I always think I always thought that, because I know they have some nice bits of kit over there, don't they, as well.
Yeah.
But so Oman looked fun, and that picture I was looking the other day at it, and it just looked like a boy band walking out. It's great. But I'll put that up for you guys as well. Don't worry. But did you enjoy flying or even instructing on the T1?
Initially, I didn't really, but then when because I didn't really want to be there. I really didn't want to be at Bali. I always wanted to do other stuff. But once you actually get into it, and you find that your students are very receptive, and I think if you're working hard, you're doing it wrong. So there's always easier ways of doing things. And as an instructor with all that experience behind you, you generally can find the easier ways of doing things. And if you pass on little hints and tips to your students, and suddenly the light bulb comes on and they go, oh, I never thought about doing it that way. And I remember I was teaching one student, and it was just doing SAT planning. It was all paper plans and fine black pens, and you had to time everything out. And there was this way that they used to plan turns, and it was very, very time consuming. And I just went, well, put a circle on, and then wherever you are, then just stick your ruler on the edge of the circle, call that 10-second turn, Robert's your father's brother, and off you go.
Right.
Instead of timing out each individual turn, I just go 10 seconds and you're fine and you're done. And it saved a huge amount of time. And one of my students actually came up to me at the end of the course and said, you know what, that gave me at least 10 minutes more prep on each sortie, because I just went and all the way around. And it's those little things that can really make a difference. And it's kind of like, oh, actually,
just like work smarter.
Work smarter, not harder. And that's definitely the case. Initially I didn't, but I do kind of enjoy it now. And I did by the end, but by the end I was like, well, I'm off to something else. I'm going back to a proper jet, going to do a proper job, and a different job as well, in a different country with a different bunch of people. So actually, but Valley did me well, as it were, because it taught me how to do air combat. So
did you watch that? I think it was a documentary on ITV, wasn't it? It was only maybe half a year ago. I'll probably get this wrong, but maybe a year ago.
Oh yes.
And it was following a couple of students. It was over
through the Hawk T2, wasn't it? Yeah, I saw a little bit of it. Yeah, not a huge amount, but I saw a little bit of it. I mean, the training system's changed massively.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. Yeah, it must be like completely different from back in the day. And it seems, is it right to say it's more strict?
A little bit more strict, a little bit more controlled, but the emphasis has shifted from low level attack and being bounced with an aggressor, running around with a map and stopwatch plus or minus 5 seconds around Wales. That's all gone. There's none of that anymore. I mean, they still do a little bit of singleton nav, but it's all upper airspace. It's all synthetic radar, and it's actually quite complex. It's very, because they've got it's all MFDs, all radar work, all simulated AMRAAM, into 9 lemurs, into heaters and guns, 2v1, different merge postures and all the rest of it. So it's actually quite complex now. But yeah, changed radically, and the emphasis has shifted from down low mud moving to your multi-role, go in, sweep the area, and then you poop off a couple of paveway fours roughly in the basket and they'll hit. Yeah. So the old school skills of rushing around at low level and dropping £1,000 retard or a sticker 2 on something is gone. Yeah. No longer exists.
Yeah. Obviously, we're filming an episode of Happy Hour, but have you got any good stories from, Friday night at the bar in your time?
At Valley or just wherever?
Yeah.
We had a toga party when I look at my basic flying training and I'm very surprised I survived. Just physically and mentally because of the hijinks in the bar. We did have one guy, I'm not going to name him, but the mess cannons.
Yeah.
So you have the catering size baked bean tins, and you stack a load of them together, and you can either put lighter fluid in the bottom, or you can put deodorant is the other one. Lynx, the classic.
Yeah.
It's about all it's good for. And then you stick either a cabbage or a bodge taped load of paper or something at one end. Well, it was a toga party in the bar. Obviously, everybody had a couple of beers, and the mess cannon wasn't working, and I think they'd overloaded it with fuel. And so this chap, in his bravado, goes, I know what I'll do, I'll burn it off. So he puts his hand down the mess cannon with a lighter, lights it. Of course, this thing then, I won't say explodes, but the flame shoots up his arm, takes all the hair off, and he gets kind of like minor burns. And then he spends the rest of the night with his hand in a pint of beer until one of the docs comes in and goes, what are you doing that for? And then he had a look at his fingers and he went, med centre now, off we go. Yeah. But he just, it's just one of those things.
I don't think you would get away with something like that.
No, you wouldn't. Although some of the hijinks that still go on, from what I've heard, are still pretty epic.
Is that more hidden though?
Yeah, because you can get in trouble a lot quicker nowadays, because the spotlight is on social media. Somebody has to record it and then send it to a mate, and then it's all over the news. So the hijinks, thank God, Facebook and whatever wasn't around when I was a student, because we'd have been court-martialed probably.
On social media, what do you think of it? What's your opinions on it? Obviously, I use it as a marketing tool and to chat with people and stuff. I quite like it.
It's a double-edged sword, I think.
I think you're right there.
I think there's definitely pros, but there's most definitely cons. And I think the younger you are, the more the cons affect, certainly from a mental health perspective, which is, I think the younger you are, the less exposure to social media, the better.
I agree with that, yeah.
I mean, I use my social media just for, I don't really post much. I don't post much about my family or anything like that, or where I am, what I do. But I look at it for interesting articles.
Because you share some decent things, and I think you're right there, and especially the younger age. I think they just want likes all the time, like that, and they'll wake up. I'm guilty of that as well. I'll wake up, and if I posted, a video or something the night before, and I'll be like,
"You're a slave to Facebook, aren't you?" I don't know the youth of today and their phones.
Bloody kids,
bloody kids, harumph.
But I wouldn't be able to do, certainly not if social media wasn't around.
Yeah.
Because no one would be able, even if YouTube existed without Instagram, Facebook. There's no way.
Yeah.
So it works for me in that sense.
Yeah.
But then if you're smart with it, it's okay. As long as, I mean,
But
everyone's...
I think you need to be more... I think the older you are, the easier it is in many ways. Because if somebody posts something mean about you, you kind of just go... Phew, and it doesn't matter. But I think the younger you are, the more they take that to heart. 14, 15, 16-year-olds, they can be unbelievably cruel to each other.
I mean, I used to be really bothered about it. Now I'm just like, don't care. Well, they'll say something. I rarely get it, but when I do get it, it'll be something on the lines of, "Oh, you missed an opportunity there. Why didn't you do that?" And then they just kind of ignore it or say, just, "Thanks for watching." You know, what else can I do? And I always think, if you please everyone, you'll please no one.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just thought I'm just going to do what I want, and people seem to like it, and I get to do cool things like this.
So here's a question for you. How did you talk to me about the genesis of Aircrew Interview? How did it start for you?
For me, it was, I think a few people know this, but I'm not sure, but it was back in maybe 7-8 years ago. I was looking for interviews with pilots. I mean, like on YouTube, there was nothing there. There was like the odd 2-minute clip from ITV News, and I was like, I wanted something lengthy and, like go into like more details. And there was nothing really there that I'd noticed anyway. And then the name came first because it kind of rhymes, and it says what it does, I reached out to a guy called David Gledhill.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
F4 and F3 nav, and he surprisingly said yes, and I was like, oh, great. And then I bought a camera, and then off we go, and here we are today, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I had to sacrifice a lot, especially when I took it on as my full-time job.
Yeah.
Because that was like a big leap, but obviously
that's a gutsy move, Mav. So,
I was really. My dad at the start, he was like, "How do you make money? What's all this about?" Yeah. Even today, when I go to my grandma's, they're like, "What's that?"
So what is it you do again?
And you're like, "Oh, I interview fighter pilots for YouTube." And like, "Is that a job?" I'm like, "Yeah,
kind of. Pays the bills.
Pays the bills, and I can go on holiday once a year."
There are worse ways to earn a living, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and that's how it came about, really.
Could be an F3 pilot. Okay, no, that's so it's taken a while though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was never a fast grow. I mean, it's so niche. It's never going to be like on YouTube you can make millions, and from like pranks and stuff like that, because it's like, this is so niche. It's it's hard to trying to rise above them people, but I'm happy to be, I don't know if this sounds arrogant, but a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be like that, and it works for me.
But there's enough devotees of aviation that you'll get your regulars, but then you'll get the passing trade, and where do you get most of your new clientele from? Or do they just trickle in?
There's a few ways. Some people, like viewers, they'll message me and be like, "Oh, I really want to interview this guy," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." And then if I can find them, I'll message them if it's somebody I want to do anyway. And sometimes I go cold calling.
Okay.
That's recently I've done a few. I was like, I'll risk it, and I've got enough people in the bag now where it's not like, "Who are you?" They can just look on the website.
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot easier. And then sometimes I'll go through past guests. I'd be like, "Oh, I'm looking for this," and they're usually happy.
That's normally the best way, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously if they've been on the channel, and normally they want to help, they'll because they wouldn't be on the channel otherwise. So and then it's just sometimes I'll bump into someone on social media. I'll be scrolling through Twitter or something, and we're like, "Okay, I'll try that person," and it sometimes works, but Twitter doesn't work for me. I don't know why. It's flat, like Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, I don't know why. It's really strange. I don't know.
Different.
I think people on Twitter are probably a bit more. It's all about me kind of thing. Whereas Facebook, if you want to be in the group, you want to be there because you want to brag about yourself.
Because you want to participate rather than just
And then Twitter's more of an open forum. So yeah. But yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it, and and I always I come up with ideas all the time, and it's really annoying sometimes I can't do them. Like, I want to do that now.
So what's your what would be your unicorn? The one, would it be like an astronaut? Would it be a Russian? Would it be a Vietnam vet, or the likes of you obviously can't do it, but someone like Robin Olds or
Yeah, I don't really have anything like that.
You don't?
No, not really.
No, okay.
Because I'm interested in all sides of aviation, so there's no one. I don't go for big names just for the sake of it, because it doesn't really work. I interviewed Norman Tebbit, Lord Tebbit.
Oh yes.
Went to his house, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to do really well." Didn't really do that well, because I thought we were going to be a big name, people would know him, but no, didn't really do that well. So it's more the aircraft I'm interested in. And then obviously, if the person's like a good laugh and stuff, it makes it obviously a lot better. But I don't have a unicorn interviewee, I guess. But Tim Peake would be quite fun.
Yeah, rotary mate. Though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Don't want to talk about your helicopter stuff. Morton.
Bad enough. Yeah.
Did you meet any friends for life when you were going through the Air Force? Is anyone you keep in regular contact with? Let's move on.
Yeah, it's weird. You do, and the weird thing is that I mean, it's like a mate of mine I went to university with, who's F3 Nav, but actually bizarrely, cracking lad, lifelong friend, and when you meet up, be it just randomly bumping into people, it's not, oh my god, where have you been? It's like, oh, hello mate, blah blah blah, and you pick up immediately from where you left off, and that seems to be universally true with everybody you've met. I met a couple of I met some really incredible people in Oman, and the same is true with them. You won't talk for 2 years or whatever, maybe the odd message here or there on Facebook or text message, but then you'll meet up somewhere and it'll be like just like yesterday.
Yeah, because I met up with my mates the other day. One of them lived in Germany, but I haven't seen him for over 2 years, so I never normally go out on a weekday. I was like, but I'll go and see him, and it was just like nothing's changed. Yeah, and it was just the same jokes as before.
But I don't know if that's a bloke thing.
I think so.
But yeah, there are some guys that you would, you'd walk over broken glass for regardless. And yeah, as we were talking about earlier, there are most of the people you meet on a squadron are generally really good quality people that you want to spend time with.
I'd love to know, like, if I know you'll never say or mention, but I would love to know, because everyone always says, there's one or two on the squadron that.
There's always one. Yeah. There's always one.
And if you don't know, that's
if you're wondering who it is, it's you. Yeah.
Like, who's the arsehole?
Yeah, if you're wondering, it's you.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the only person in aviation. It's not like I don't like them, it's just
they're not exciting.
No, it's like when because I was looking for air shows to go to, and obviously there's only a select few. I think it was Duxford, and it just seemed to be like Spitfires all day, and it was something like 50 quid a ticket or something like that, and I was like, that seems a lot just for
watch a bunch of Spitfires.
Yeah, get someone to reheat on them. I'll go.
Yeah.
But do you plan to go to any air shows when they're back up and running?
To be honest, I'm not an air show kind of a person. We went to the Families Day at Valley because the kids wanted.
Oh yeah.
We took the kids. It was blowing. It was 30 gusting 40 knots. Okay. So welcome to Valley. But I don't know. It's never really been a massive thing with our family. Okay. I mean, my mum was air traffic. My dad was Canberras, Tornadoes, Gnats, Hunters, Bucks. So, we'd do Families Days and stuff like that, and I'd go onto Squadron, and that's probably where I got the, got the bug. But yeah, we never really did the Farnboroughs or the air shows. That was because we used to get that all the time.
Yeah, so it was just like,
just go down the Squadron and you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing I remember when I was about a 6-7-year-old or something was being able to go into the Squadron and get Mars bars for free. because of the honesty bar. And Dad would just, and I thought this was the most amazing thing ever.
Free
Literally free chocolate, and he'd just go in and go, there we go, and he'd go, I was like, what?
The Jets outside, you're like, nah, where's the Mars bars?
No, where's the Mars bars? Yeah, I was just never an airshow kind of kid.
Yeah, we tried to get to her, like, I don't think Chelsea really likes them that much. She doesn't mind them once they're there, but yeah, I remember she was like, I think, what's it called? That ugly yellow helicopter. Whirlwind or something? I'm not sure. And she was like, oh, is that what's on now? She's like, for God's sake.
Well,
I'm like, no, the fast ones are coming, don't worry.
Well, funnily enough, when I took my two to Valley, I think the Reds were due to do a display, but I think they'd had 3 went US on start. Oh. So they went from Scampton to Shawbury, and then they were going to go Shawbury Valley, do the display, land, and then back, and all the rest of it. But they had 3 go tits up on start. So their sort of reversionary option was they'd send the back 4. I can't remember whether it's Enid or Jippo. I think it's Enid, but I'm not sure. So just the back 4 turned up, and they started doing their thing, and they did their little, because the weather wasn't very nice. So I think it was the flat display, and my son is 4.5, and I think he turned to my other half and went, "Not impressed. I want to go home." And he's 4.5, and I was like, if I could have fist bumped it, unfortunately I was in the sim working, but if I could have fist bumped him at the time, it'd be like, awesome. I'm not impressed. Honestly, not impressed.
Yeah, but you do get some, people who go to the air shows, like every air show and stuff like that. But yeah, like me and Chelsea, that's my partner, if you're not sure, we tend to just go to Riyadh.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big one, and then Sunderland, because that's on our doorstep, and it's free, so... But we tend to don't go, and there's not many big shows anymore. I think Riyadh's the biggest one, and then I can't think what else there is. Have you ever
thought? Well, didn't you go to Singapore?
I went to Singapore Air Show, yeah, because my parents live there.
Yeah.
So I actually timed up for the air show, sadly. Chelsea was like, we're going on holiday and you have to organise it around an air show. I was like, it just happened to be on.
It's a fluke, honestly.
Yeah. And,
what's the Dubai one like? You thought about the Dubai air show?
I think that's more of a trade show,
like is it?
Farnborough. So
okay.
Yeah, it's the same with Singapore. I think we went, so there was a display at something like 10 till 11:15. I can't remember, there was 2 or 3 aircraft on it. And then the next show was at like 2 till 3:45. So like in between there was nothing. There was a few statics, but it's people. Then you go in there at the convention centre, and just loads of companies, just that kind of thing. They just want to make money, do deals and stuff like that. But yeah, because Chelsea doesn't normally have like a drink when we go to the air show because she's driving. And this is the first time she went to an air show where she wasn't driving. She didn't even have one. It was just so hot. She was just like, I want to go home. It's like, we'll be soon, don't worry. But she got a free metal straw from somebody, so she was happy.
Well, got to count the little wins.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice.
But so going back to the Jag, was it really that underpowered? Like, because everyone says it, or was that just kind of like a running joke? No,
it was horrendously underpowered. Right. Yeah. £16,000 in full blower, which is not a lot. I think an F-16's got 32 to 38 or something, whichever block you've got. Typhoon's got 40-ish, something like that. So yeah, very, very underpowered. And considering it's fine when it's clean, it's quite sprightly, but then you start sticking, a couple of jugs on it, a ton each. Then you add the drag as well, like an ECM and a FEMA, and then you add a couple of 1,000-pounders on. The thing's a stinking pig. It was very underpowered. The jokes are there for a reason.
And did you have to be in full blower for every takeoff, or was it ever an
no, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it was a joke that we needed blower to taxi, but a blower was absolutely
Really?
required. Yeah.
Could you take off clean and dry?
Yeah, I mean, you could take off clean, but unfortunately, it did cost someone their life. I think it was there was an accident where a guy, because he was so out, I think because he wasn't very current, he took off in dry power, and he clipped the barrier, so the barrier was up, and he clipped the barrier with his gear. And I think he, unfortunately, it was a fatal accident.
Did he not? Did he?
He just didn't realise.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was a few years ago now. I think it was somewhere between 96, 99-ish, maybe around then. Yeah, real shame because he was a lovely chap. But yeah, it was blower every time.
Yeah.
But even so, places like Thumb Rate. If you're taking off with 5 and a bit tons and you had a centerline 500 kilo bomb, and in the middle of summer, you trample the cable at the other end.
Really?
So, and at Thumb Rate, an 11,000 feet runway. So you're just getting airborne with not a lot left.
Why did they pick that aircraft for that climate?
Oh, God, yeah, who knows? So there was a good salesman on that one.
It must have been, yeah.
I mean, that's the worst case scenario. You load it up and then you stick it in a hot climate, 1,500 feet up on the Jebel, because Thumb Rate's quite high as well, and you stick it in you stick in 40 degrees, but over the runway, it can be much, much hotter because of the localized heating.
Yeah.
So not an ideal one for hot and high. I'd much rather be in something like a 15 or 15E or something with a serious amount of thrust.
Yeah.
But it did the job.
I always liked the look of the 2-seater better than the single seat, actually. It looked a bit sleeker.
It did look a bit sleeker. It brought its own problems though, because it was that much longer. Yeah. The B/A ratio was much worse. It's all about how well it's going to come out of a spin. It was irrecoverable pretty much. So the test pilots who did the spin trials, they had a spin chute. So the drag chute that you would normally land with, they had a spin chute because otherwise it wouldn't recover and you'd have to throw the jet away. And if you see I've looked for it on YouTube and I can't find it anywhere, is the old loss of control video for the Jag, because it doesn't. Most other aircraft generally spin. Normal, they kind of spin, they spiral down. The more modern aircraft, I think like Typhoon, and certainly not things like the F-35 and whatever, won't do because they're so unstable. But the Jag was, it fell like a piano. It just didn't. There was no rhyme or reason to it, and it would fall, and then it would go tail first, and the engines would cough, and then they'd flame out. And oh god, yeah, the thing was a disaster from a spinning perspective. But that was because it was so long, had tiddly little wings, and then all the mass was in the centre, and that's generally pretty poor in terms of design for spin recovery. So yeah. But no, I don't know. Originally, it was designed as a trainer. Then they decided to put a whole bunch of pylons on it and call it a frontline aircraft. I'm kind of glad they didn't use it as a trainer, because if they did, if it was an advanced trainer here, they'd have students piled in all over Wales.
So it was a good move from that.
It wasn't a good trainer. Wouldn't have been a good trainer.
Was it just because they stuck it on the front line just because they were probably so far into it, the project, that they just had to use it somehow? Probably. Yeah.
I suspect so. They just kind of had to go, well, we've paid this much, let's try and make something of it. It had some quite unpleasant handling characteristics if you overstep the mark, and knowing how ham-fisted some students can be, and they don't have the experience to know when they're overstepping the mark. So it's like, and with the Jag, when you overstep the mark, there's very little way back. It'll go, and then that's it. You're screwed. Yeah. So
so kind of going on from like air shows, do you ever are you ever interested in like the aviation magazines or forums or anything, or do you kind of get enough of it all?
kind of get enough from work and whatever. So sometimes, certainly when I was doing my CPL and prior to that, when I did my ATPL, I was looking on, the obvious things like P-prune, but you've. Like most things on the internet, you have to take a lot of what is said on the internet with a pinch of salt.
Of course,
and try and find somebody that you trust within the trade to actually give you the proper answer. But yeah, generally I kind of stay away from the forums and stuff because there'll normally be an F3 mate on there giving it that.
Yeah, I generally stay away. There's a few forums, it seems very strict actually, so sometimes I'll try to promote on, like a new interview that's coming out, I'll say this, whoever flew this is the interview, and they'll either delete it or get like a warning saying,
oh really?
They do that because they think it's self-promoting. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not asking you for any money, I'm just saying
you might want to, yeah.
It's not like, give me money and you can watch it. Yeah, it's there on YouTube and some other people might be interested, so I've tended to stay away from the forums now. Yeah,
I generally don't get involved because whatever happens, you'll put something and then someone will disagree with you, and then it'll just turn into a massive slanging match, and you'll find that actually the guy who's disagreeing with you's got no experience at all, or he's just some keyboard warrior who wants to make a point, and it's actually not interested.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually I haven't come across anyone yet. Because sometimes people ask me like, oh, have you ever had like a fake pilot contact you? Do you want to be interviewed? No, none of that yet, but I was thinking, who would do that? They're going to get caught out.
Yeah, they'll get caught out relatively quickly.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to cover up unless you're a pilot, non-pilot. Well,
general aviation, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a GA pilot trying to talk as if you're in the military, anybody in the military will immediately go, no.
Really?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, because
I would notice, probably not.
But you'll go, oh yeah, I was on this squadron at this time, and you'll go, someone will go, well no you weren't because I was on that squadron, or my best mate was on that squadron. He never mentioned somebody like you. You've only got to go through the Air Force list, and you can see who served when and where, and it's just like, what's the point?
Yeah, I think I saw someone. I can't remember if it was someone's YouTube channel, but everyone was like, oh, this guy's not with, I think it was an F-14 pilot who was claiming to be, and everyone was like, this is not it. So I was like, oh, I have to be a bit more careful now because I'm quite trusting in people. But luckily, no one's tried to trick me yet.
Well, I think, yeah, it'll be pretty obvious, when they are. But, well, like you say, if you trust people, you expect people to be honest with you. And if they're not, then...
Yeah.
Do
you ever get to don't the RAF have like a club where you can stay in the hotel and there's like a bar and a restaurant?
Yeah, there is the RAF club down in Green Park, just off Green Park. You can. Yeah, the RAF club. We had our University Air Squadron. Our old boys got banned from there. I don't want to say why, but we got banned from there. I had nothing to do with it. I just like to say for the camera. But yeah, we were asked not to come back.
So you're banned.
So, well, not me personally, but certainly the old boys club was. But yeah, it's nice to go to if you remember, it's nice to go to. It's a bit Rolly Birkin, leather chairs, pipes, and stuff like that. Not really my scene, to be honest, but it's nice. It's a nice place to go. And if you need to stay in London, then it's all right. But not my kind of bag, unfortunately.
What about reunions? I don't know if they do just squadrons or they do types as well. Or like
there is a JAG association, I think.
Okay.
There used to be a Jaguar. I'm not sure whether there's, I think there's a JAG Pilots Association, and then there's the engineers as well. And I think recently they've tried to amalgamate them. But to be honest, the amount of time I get off with 2 kids and whatever, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. What about, I think there's, I can't remember what it's called. it's like an all-military club. I don't think it's just RAF. There's another one down London, isn't there? I think it's just for the armed forces.
Union Jack Club? Is it the UJ? Yeah,
that
UJ
looks
Club.
quite cool.
Yeah, I've never been there actually, but I have heard good things about it. And like you say, I think anybody can stay there. But I don't know whether you've got to be serving or reservist.
Right.
Not sure.
Right,
Not sure. I mean, we're about as far from London as you can get, apart from Wick. But it's there's definitely it's good. I think that they, there's somewhere like that you can stay in the capital. But yeah.
So I want to talk about like aircrew and obviously ground crew. Was there that complete separation there? Did they hate you? Did you hate them? Or
no, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. You were a team. There was always banter. There was always rivalry. But ultimately, these guys were servicing your aircraft. Your life was absolutely in their hands. So you had to talk to them. You had to try and understand, because when the Aircrew manual, which is the pilot's Bible, is about this thick, maybe two of them, depending on what aircraft you've got. But it's a varying size. But yeah, for pilots, that's about as big as you want to get, manual-wise. When you go and ask the engineers, you say, right, what is it? They open these like leather-bound tomes, and you get, as a pilot, the Rosie and Jim's Jaguar fuel system. So you go and talk to them, and you say, I had this indication, and you go, well, it's because your flange wigget spunk monkey trumpet valve over here is stuck. And you go, well, I've never heard of that. And they get out this massive book and they show you, and they go, well, why don't I get this? Well, there's nothing you can do about it. So but actually they are fonts of knowledge. They're very, certainly the senior guys, the sergeants and the flight sergeants, the warrant officers, are just incredibly knowledgeable. And the corporals as well. They're incredibly knowledgeable. They know more than you do. The only difference is you have to fly the flaming thing. So there was always a bit of banter and stuff, but you were very much a team. And although they kind of called you sir, didn't really matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't remember who I talked to about it. I was like, I don't know if it did happen, but when you meet the ground crew at the jet, and if they were like, all right, mate, well, you're not allowed to say that. Is that? Would you be bothered if someone said that?
I wouldn't be too bothered.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be too bothered, as long as, if we'd been on ops together and I knew them and all the rest of it, then I wouldn't be too bothered about it. Because it's just, as long as it's just me and them, fine, I got no snags with that. If they're saying that in front of the warrant officer, then they might get in trouble elsewhere. And you, certainly when you're on detachment, you go out drinking. Please, not with the armourers, but you go out drinking with some of your lads, and you end up in some hilarious debacles.
So you actually mixed?
It wasn't
just pilots going
No. We ended up... Where were we? We were in Winnipeg, coming back on a trail, and I went out with some of the lads, and legendary evening, and it does kind of bind you as a bit of a team, because they know stuff about you know stuff about them, and nothing is said. It's just a bit of a nod and a wink, and you go, do you remember that time in Winnipeg? That kind of thing. It just, those sorts of things bind the squadron together. And like I say, they service your jets. They've got to know you, and they don't have to like you, but it's better for the team if they do. So I didn't. It definitely was not a them and us, and it should never be. Was
everyone, like aircrew wise, a bit more up themselves where they're like, I wouldn't speak to him, or, or I'm not.
Oh God,
call me
yeah.
Ned,
You
remember
that thing about there's always one on a squadron?
Yeah, that's the person.
That kind of thing. Yeah, there's always those guys who look down their noses a bit, and you just kind of look at them and go, "What are you doing?" They're part of our squadron. Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
But
there's always one. Yeah.
There's always one or two, possibly on a squadron. But there's no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it.
I think that works in real life as well. Any walk of life, people looking down on you. But was there any on your squadron, I don't know what they're called, where they're like specially painted, their special liveries? Did you have anything like that? Because the Tornadoes sometimes it was all black. I know the display Jag was all black. Yeah, the
display jet was the only one, I think. But certainly when we were at Colt, we didn't have squadron aircraft. They were wing aircraft. So you had all three squadrons. So you had 6, 41, 54, and then eventually you had 16 came down as well. So you had.
Okay.
So the 16 used to get the lion's share of the T-birds, but for obvious reasons. And then the other jets would be sort of farmed out to the other squadrons, depending on what the long-term plan was. If you're doing a lot of NVG work, then you'd get the NVG compatible aircraft, because some of them weren't. Okay. Some of them were all being converted, or you get the tiled aircraft if you're doing laser guided bombs, or those that had been fully prepped for air-to-air refueling and stuff like that. So they were all divvied up depending on what you were doing at the time. So you could end up with a mix of aircraft. So there was never really any squadron livery type things.
Yeah, because I've never really seen anything that's mainly grey.
Yeah, mainly grey, but you'd have you'd have the 54 crest, or you'd have the blue and red on the or the along the RWR and things like that. So they were painted depending on whether they were a G jet. So we used to have Golf Alpha and Golf Quebec and stuff like that, which were 54s, and I think Papas were 41, and I can't even remember what 6s were. But so you'd often find a mix of liveries on every line. So we didn't really have our own jets; they were all wing jets.
And did you interact with the other squadrons, or was there separation there?
You would. I mean, we shared a building with 41, so you kind of had to interact with them anyway. Recce losers. But there was, sometimes you'd go off and you'd do an 8-ball, or you'd do a big Cameo push, and there'd be a whole, 4 from 6 squadron would come in, and then you have a pair from 41, and then you have a 4 from 54 or something like that. But on a day-to-day thing, generally you just ran your own flying program. It was too difficult trying to get everybody else to program 3 squadrons together. So it was a special thing that you'd get lots of other squadrons coming in, normally for a big Cameo or something. So you didn't really cross-fertilise, if I can use that term.
I can't remember if I asked you in the original interview. What was the jet you wanted to go on to?
Yes. It was. Right. I had the delight of, when I graduated from Cranwell, my flight commander at Cranwell, he was a scribbly, bless him. He wanted a drinking buddy. So I got stiffed to stay at Cranwell as the ADC to the AOC and Commandant for about 9 months, I think. So I got well and truly shafted. But he got his drinking buddy. I got to go to a lot of graduation balls, and it was kind of fun. But then after that, I went and held on 6 Squadron. So I held on 6 Squadron for about 6 months or so, and I got a couple of trips there, and I just thought, I love it. It's great.
And you had the F3 right there as well.
Well, bless it. It was just, a little Shangri-La in the corner of Norfolk, and everybody you were the Holding Kevin. That was literally your name badge was Holding Kevin, but everybody knew you as, your first name. And when it came to organising the social events, you were front and centre, and you were treated as part of the squadron. It was awesome fun. I loved it. You weren't just muggins over there in the corner. You were part of the squadron. Yeah, you had to do some crappy jobs and all the rest of it, but hey, so does everybody.
Yeah.
But you were part of the squadron when it came to the beer call on the Friday. If you got in trouble, the whole squadron was there to defend you, and you were pretty fireproof.
Yeah.
It was
quite terrifying. Jumping into a squadron. I mean, going to school almost. Was it like, or did you
it was, yeah. And I remember my very first morning, I was late. I can't remember why, but I was definitely late. But yeah, people just, and this is one thing with the military, certainly aviation-wise, you get moved to a squadron, and they go, right. There you go. And everybody, because everybody's had it before, they go, right, mate, we are now your family.
Yeah.
Welcome. And there's none of this kind of sit at your desk and get to know people.
Yeah.
People come up to you and they forcibly say, right, you are coming to ours this weekend. Bring your girlfriend, bring your kids. We're going to have a barbecue. Everybody else is coming. And there was no sort of opportunity to say, no, actually, I just want to chill out on my own. It was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
And within a very short space of time, you were part of the squadron. And then when somebody else comes in, somebody else graduates from the OCU, same again.
And would you say that's probably the same throughout different types and squadrons, or?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty universal.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different when I went to Oman, because a lot of the guys lived in Muscat. But the Brits that were there, even more tight knit.
Yeah.
Definitely even more tight knit, because they were a smaller group of guys, further from home. So it was literally you're thrown amongst these reprobates, and it was sink or swim kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when you used to go to these, you're coming this weekend for the barbecue, blah blah blah. Would you just talk about flying and the girlfriends' wives? I know it sounds a bit stereotypical, and then they're on their own, and you're just.
There was always a bit of shop talk, but you tried not to, because that was kind of like Friday night in the bar sort of thing.
Yeah.
And nobody likes talking about flying 24/7. It gets a bit dull. It was definitely, normal conversation. It wasn't just about flying, because it bores. If you're not into flying, it's boring.
Yeah. Chelsea knows that.
Yeah, bless her.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I try not to be too geeky with aviation, but if I hear something in the sky in Chelsea's, I'll kind of slyly look up. I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, you can always spot the pilot. You can always spot a pilot, because as soon as they hear jet noise, they look up. When I was at Cranwell, initial officer training, there was this thing, because the Reds were there with us.
Okay.
So they flew from Cranwell for a little while I was at IOT. So IOT, it's a bit of a ball ache. There's lots of polishing shoes and marching up and down and stuff. And I remember we were out, it was early on, so during the basic induction module, which I think is about 8 weeks long, maybe 4 weeks, can't remember. But it's literally bullshit parades and getting up early and ironing stuff, and just all the stuff that is nonsense. But we were outside, there was a parade going on, and we were there all stood to attention, and the flight sergeant was inspecting us with he had his pace stick and stuff, and he was, I think he was probably about 2 or 3 people down from me, and I was waiting. Red arrow went over. Somebody looked up within his field of view, and that was it. He was straight in there, and he goes, "What are you looking at, son? What are you looking at?" And it was just hilarious because he goes, "Is that your favourite airplane?" "No, Flight Sergeant." And he goes, "Well, I think you better get after it then. Right, front and centre, left, right, left, right, left, right." And he literally ran him around the parade square after any aircraft that flew over. Meanwhile, everybody else who was stood there on parade was going bright red and was crying. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
But you couldn't laugh, obviously.
You couldn't laugh, obviously, because then you'd have to go after him. But it was when he went, "Is that your favourite airplane? Best you go chase it then. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right."
Like something off a movie.
Oh, it was. It was. It reminded me of. Is it Monty Python? Has anybody got anything they'd rather be doing? Yeah, it was just like that. But on the flip side, you kind of think they're all big and scary flight sergeants. But I think after week 8, where we moved from the number 1 mess over to Cranwell, College Hall mess, the big flashy one, we had a block party. So we had our own block of, I don't know how many, maybe 40 odd cadets in there, maybe more, I can't remember. And it went on and on late night. And in the morning, somebody got up at about, 6 a.m. and they went for a leak, and they looked out the window, and all they could see was the flight sergeant with his camouflage rucksack on, his number 1 shoes, socks, underpants, and he was covered in body chocolate, because someone had given them, one of the girls, this edible body chocolate. And so it had obviously gone downhill massively overnight, and they could just see him marching across, bold as brass, marching across the parade square back home. And I was like, yeah, nice. That's the military for you in a nutshell.
That's brilliant.
They were good guys. They were good guys.
Yeah, I think you were one of our early guests anyway, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. It was Newark Air Museum, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because bizarrely, it was my dad who mentioned that someone had been approached. You were looking for a Jag pilot to talk to. And I think my dad heard through the grapevine, the jungle drums, and he said this chap is looking for a Jag pilot to talk to, and that's when I got in touch and said, yeah, why not? So,
I actually remember where I was when you texted me.
Oh, really?
Me and Chelsea were going. I think I was going to buy some socks and pants from Primark.
Jesus.
I was in the car and I was like, I think I got myself a Jag pilot interview. Anyway, let's go and get me socks.
Let's get some socks and my pants.
So yeah, I do remember that, yeah. And yeah, I think everyone really enjoyed your interviews and the Q&As. I get a regular, actually, probably every week or 2 weeks. Like, is Kit coming back on the channel?
Okay.
Yeah, which is, so that's what I wanted to do with the happy hour, because it's a bit different from your Q&A, but it's a bit more relaxed. But it was fun that day. Yeah, we did the cockpit tour as well, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, slightly different because it was an earlier...
Yeah, it was a GR1, I think.
Yeah.
You were GR3, weren't you, all the way?
Yeah, 3s and 3As. And did I send you all the photos of the cockpit?
Yeah, they're really detailed. I sometimes use them on Instagram, by the way. I do credit you, though.
No, that's fine, yeah.
But they do get, like, I think I put the one where it was just, like, the stick and the screen. It must be like 700 likes on Instagram. I was like, I'll do.
Just throw that up. Yeah, it's a bit of a ergonomic slum.
Yeah, I was looking at it because there's a fair few pictures. It does look, there's a lot going on there.
There is a lot going on.
And I was like, bloody hell. No wonder like Jag pilots were supposed to be good, weren't they?
Well, you look at the stuff nowadays, and it's much simpler. I mean, the Texan, has got 3 big MFDs. And a HUD, up-front controller, a couple of other bits and pieces, a few switches there, and that's it. It
does look, yeah.
It's so simple, and it's all. You look at JSF. I mean, I flew. They're pushing stuff virtual reality now as well, so you wear the VR goggles.
Oh wow!
And I flew one for the first time the other day, and I was like, actually, this is pretty good, but we didn't have the hand sensor thing, so you couldn't do switches and stuff. But they said, what do you want to fly? And I was like, well, have you got F-35? And they put me in the F-35 cockpit, and I went, holy crap. And all you could see is just this massive screen.
It's like a big iPad.
It's just a massive bunch of, it's just one massive iPad with loads of stuff on it. Bizarre.
Yeah.
And that's, within 20 years.
Everyone slates the F-35, but I don't know, it's just because they don't understand it. I don't. Maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah, I knew one of the TPs who flew it, and he said it's a brilliant jet. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm not entirely sure why he bought the Stovall version.
Model, yeah.
I mean, if you've seen the rear end of that thing, the number of linkages to
complications.
Yeah. I mean, that
it is a work of art, but like when it comes to military kit, that's just you asking for a headache.
I mean, just maintaining that's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure we went for the Stovall version. I don't know whether there were too many Harrier pilots at the top. I mean, there's always too many Harrier pilots in my view, but too many Harrier pilots at the top making the decisions, whereas actually conventional carrier, cat launch, or is it they can now do? Is it electromagnetic? Electric ones.
Yeah.
Why don't you just have a trap and cat?
Yeah.
Rather than Stovall.
We have two, don't we? Is it Elizabeth and what's the other one? Is it Prince of Wales?
Yeah, Prince of Wales, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why we didn't go down that cat route, because there's so many more options there. Yeah.
And you could have saved so much weight and complication just getting the non-Stovall version.
Yeah.
But then the Harrier mates wouldn't have been able to go, oh look, I can hover. Air shows would have been so much more dull without the Harriers. Lower stuffed.
I love the banner with the Harrier guys. That's always fun.
Bless them.
Yeah, bless them.
Bless them. There you go. Oh, bless. Oh, it's so sweet. It's such a nice little jet. Shame it's subsonic.
Yeah, I think if I had the choice, I'd definitely go Jag. Yeah, if I had them options.
Well, obviously.
But was there? I mean, what was it like teaching the Jags guys in Oman? Was it difficult, or like compared to the UK?
The range of capability the split was bigger. So the guys at the top were very good, and there were some standout students who were excellent. But the guys at the bottom were below the standard that you would normally probably expect in a UK OCU. Mm-hmm. So you just had to be on your game and don't give them too much rope. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you did your job. Mm-hmm. I failed a few of them, and I went to the boss and I explained my case, and he agreed with me, and we gave them more training, and then eventually they went through. Mm-hmm. It was just a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing was obviously you were a senior supervisor and a four-ship lead and all the rest of it, so you had to be careful when some of the senior guys were in your formation.
Right.
Because if they screwed up, you couldn't really do what you would do in a Brit squadron, which is go, right, what happened there in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. You would say, yeah, there was a bit of a thing there and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the debrief, you go, mate, can I just see you? CD, can I see you afterwards? And then you'd have to take it offline.
Right.
And do it on a more personal basis so that the young Malazams wouldn't see the lieutenants wouldn't see the squadron leader Raid or the wing commander McAdam being seen to be wrong. So there was a bit more of that you had to be aware of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if somebody totally screwed up and nearly killed you, then you could call them out on it.
Right.
You just had to be a little bit more aware. Yeah. But generally they were pretty good. And yeah, there were at least two guys, let me see, 2, 3. There were two of the junior lieutenants that would have been quite happy on a UK squadron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah.
Very willing to learn as well.
Yeah.
So that when they did a lot of air combat, and so when we went up and we did air combat, and we wound it, you'd start relatively benign, then you'd wind it up, and then it would be gloves off. Right, this is it. I'm gonna full up, no messing, 150-foot AGL, air combat. And if they lost, you debrief and you go, so why did you lose? And they go, I'm not sure. And you go, well, what happened here and what happened here? Draw it out of them. And they go, so what could I have done? Well, you could have done this and this and this, and this would have been much better. And they got better and better and better. So that by the time they went to the F-16, they were competent, very, very competent air combaters. And funnily enough, a mate of mine who was teaching on the F-16 at the time sort of paid me a compliment, because he said to the rest of the Hawk guys, the Hawk 200 out there was their sort of, I don't know, air defense platform, but it was sort of heater capable. I don't know if they had slammers at all, but they did a lot of air defense. All they did was pretty much air combat. And he said, why is it that the two guys that come from the Jags are better than anybody else here? And he said, it's because Nakib Kip taught them. And I was like, yeah, nice, yeah. But that all came back to, having my arse handed to me at Valley. And learning the hard way at Valley what was basic air combat. So Valley did me huge favours in terms of my air combat, my 3D. But then obviously you can revert to low level quite happily. So yeah, no, it was good. The students were very good, normally very receptive. Like I say, top end was up there with the Brits, and two very, very good students of mine. But some of the guys needed a bit more training down at the bottom. So
I might not put this in because I don't know if you'll be comfortable saying it, but I won't say what I am, but actually I will. I'm an atheist, so did religion come into it at all? The training that was kept separate?
Yeah, that was kept separate. Obviously Ramadan was a big thing, but we never made a big thing about it. I'm an atheist as well, so it doesn't bother me. But yeah, I mean, it's their thing, it's their culture, that's what they do. As long as it didn't interfere with flying, then that's fine.
Okay. I always thought it might be like a bit tricky out there, and you have to tiptoe around it. In terms of what you do and what they saw as.
No, not really. Okay. It never really came into it. They're a nice bunch out there. They don't take it too seriously. I mean, too seriously. They're still 5 times a day, all that kind of stuff. They still observe Ramadan. They still do the Eids and all that kind of stuff. But, the job comes first in many respects.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I never ran into any snags at all with it. It wasn't an issue.
So, that's right.
Yeah.
Before the camera goes, can we just do I'm just going to do, because I forgot to do it, just like cheers. Cheers, Kip, for inviting me round for this episode of Happy Hour.
Always way, mate.
Cheers. Yeah, so I just wanted to get that in before it went, because it's a nice introduction.
Yeah.
So yeah, like how many years did you spend on the Jaguar? I probably asked you in the initial interview, but it was so long ago I can't really.
Yeah, I did roughly 2 tours, so 5.5, 6 years-ish, something like that, and then a stint in between, which was about 2.5-ish on the Hawk before I ran away bravely, to coin an F3 phrase, to Oman. So yeah, about 6-ish years on the Jag. 2.5 on the Hawk.
Yeah, I think you got your 1,000-hour patch, didn't you?
Yeah. Got my 1,000 hours in Oman. Funnily enough, I'm wearing that at work currently. Because I don't have my badges made up for my new job, so I'm just wearing my old 54 and and when I get my immersion suit, the new goon suit only has a small patch there, so I'm going to wear my Omani wings.
Ah, nice.
Well, the boss has got his F-15 Eagle wings, so I'm like, no, I can beat that.
Yeah, so I didn't think you'd be allowed to wear like patches like that. I thought you'd be like strict to what they're.
I'm a civilian now.
Oh yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm a civilian. Can do what the hell I like.
Didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So you could wear anything you want, really.
Pretty much. I could wear my mankini under my goon suit if I really wanted, but I think I might chafe a little bit.
Yeah. But like, yeah, did you have to? I'm not quite interested in this, but did you have to buy your patches when you were in the Air Force, or was like you were given them?
That's a very good question. No, I think you had to buy them, and then they were stuck on your bar bill. Yeah, so you got, because you could then decide what you wanted on them, whether you want to do a proper name or a comedy name. So you'd have a bar name.
Oh, right, okay.
So you could have a bar name. I never used to have my surname on there, just in case you got in trouble.
Yeah, I think because you brought your patches with you, and I think I remember that on your photo.
Yeah, don't have your surname on, just in case you get in trouble. Then again, with a name like Kip, people will generally remember you. So
it's not like David.
It's really it's really only if the police get involved, by which time it's too late. You'd pay it on your bar bill, and they'd just hand you your things. You pay for it at the end of the month.
Because back in the day, there was some funny patches like you could design. I don't think you would get away with like the PC one culture now.
No, you wouldn't. But some of the stews actually have got at Valley have got some very funny ones.
Yeah.
They have course badges made up, and some of them are quite funny. Although the best one I ever saw was a basic flying training. I think it was probably 2 or 3 courses above me when I went through BFT, and it was a nautical badge. So it was the old flags.
Yeah.
They'd have flags up, and one of them says, you can have yes, no. There's various other flags and various meanings, and they had this flag, and it was kind of like, I think it was sort of 4 different colours in quadrants, and all it meant was I need a tug. And when you look it up, you go, actually, I like it, because that's really funny.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah,
that was one of the best ones I ever saw, and that's been a standout badge, I think.
That's great. So. Yeah, you see. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the badges coming from Valley. Like, they're quite great. I'm sure there's like Star Wars ones or something like that. There's some weird ones like that. Yeah,
there's some really good ones. I still know some of the guys on the AJT, but I'll try and if you want, I'll get you some photos of the current badges going through. See if I can get some of the AJT ones as well, because some of it, they put a lot of thought into them.
You can definitely tell.
Yeah, they put a lot of thought in. Well, they got nothing else to do while they hold, haven't they?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. A lot of guys are holding 2-3 years minimum.
That must be very frustrating for them.
It is,
and put them off in the end.
I don't think it puts them off, but it changes their decision-making process, because a lot of the guys we get now are married with kids. Or they've got long-term girlfriends, or they're married, and they're sort of late 20s. Sometimes they're into their early 30s.
Wow.
Certainly if they've been in the Navy, done a couple of rotary tours, maybe done a desk job, and then they come through to us, or they went through to AJT, they go through Linton or whatever. They're certainly much, much older than they were, and the holds for the F-35 are considerable. So there's a much going basic, advanced OCU frontline is now not really an option. There are massive pauses along the way.
So, this on average, so someone joining today to, let's say, getting to fly Typhoon, how long would that take? Would you?
So you've got you're probably looking at 6 years at least.
Wow.
6 to 7, maybe.
What
if they're lucky.
You were going through about 3?
Well, I joined in '96, and I hit the front line in 2000.
Not too bad. Yeah.
So it's 4 years, and bear in mind I held for a year. So I literally held 13, 14 months, and then I went basic, month off, 208, weekend off, 74, like a month off, OCU, finish on the Friday, start on the Monday. So, wow. I mean, I literally rattled. I was very, very lucky. I mean, some of these guys have held in between BFT and the Hawk, they've held for 18 months, 2 years.
What did they do in that time?
Who the hell knows?
Are they technically employed by the
Yeah.
the government, the RAF?
Still employed by the RAF, but they'll go and do a job somewhere, or they'll hold with a frontline squadron, or they'll hold on a tanker squadron, or they'll go and fill potentially an ops job somewhere, or a flight safety
It's more
job.
like paperwork type job.
Yeah, they won't go. Yeah, the lucky ones will go and hold on like a Typhoon squadron or something, and then they might get a backseat trip if they've got a two-seater. But the two-seaters are becoming rarer and rarer.
Oh yeah. I think. Do you think that puts people off now, the younger generation?
No.
You still think they want it a lot?
They still want to do it. They see the F-35, and that is a spunky bit of kit.
I think I'd rather go with Typhoon than F-35, personally, but...
Yeah.
What would you go for now if you were going in as a youngster?
Jag. No, I don't know. I mean, F-35 would be awesome, but then you get in there and you go, what, you mean I've got to do 9 hours simulated before I get an hour's flying?
Yeah.
It's changed massively. I mean, the Typhoon's about 50-50, from talking to the guys who've come back as instructors. They're about 50% simulator to 50% flight time.
And do they grumble about that, or do they just get on with it, or is there... I mean, there's nothing you can really do, I suppose.
They just get on with it, I think. But flying hours are harder and harder to come by, whereas we'd get, anywhere between 250 and 300 hours a year. Mm-hmm. We've got guys coming back as instructors pushing 200 plus hours from a 2.5 year tour, 3 year tour.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, back in the day, I think you'd probably jump at the chance to fly, but I've talked to some pilots who are like, oh yeah, he can go and fly today. That kind of thing. Yeah, we call them seagulls. Seagulls. You have to throw stones at them to get them airborne. No. Or pilot light, they never go out. There's always those on the squadron. Oh. Yeah, there's always those on the squadron. Those guys you just go, actually, there's a bit of a mystique about being a fighter pilot, and they just wanted the wings and the ability to call themselves a fighter pilot, but actually they don't enjoy it that much. Really? Yeah, there's guys who do that. Yeah, just kind of like that. Yeah, I'm a fighter pilot. I'm a fighter pilot. I've done that now. I've got the wings, but actually I don't really enjoy the job anymore. Wow, I wouldn't expect that, actually. There's a few of them out there. Yeah, like I say, seagulls. That's great. Yeah, because I think I've talked to a few people where they didn't want to particularly get promoted. They just wanted to fly. Yeah. And I think that's probably what I would have done if I had the chance and get in. But I mean, that's the opposite. The guys who just they'll do anything to fly. They'll do anything to fly, and actually they don't want to. I saw Oman as a way out of the whole promotion thing, because I didn't want to go and do it was called the JOC at the time, the Junior Officer Command course. I didn't want to go and do that. I didn't want to get it was like 3 or 4 week course. Couldn't be asked to do it, didn't want to do it. And defence writing. So you'd have to do literally a course on how to do writing. Wow. And I'm like, don't care. Not my thing. Really don't give a monkeys about it. So when I had an interview with the boss, I think a year after I joined as a tactics instructor, maybe it was 18 months, and I'd already started probing the idea of going to Oman. Right. And I was like, I don't really want to do that, because I might be moving on soon, and I might be going overseas, and I just can't do that from overseas. And I managed to string it out long enough that they said that by the time they said, right, you need to do defence handwriting, and I went, I'm going to Oman. What a shame. And it just didn't interest me, so I legged it. But no doubt if I'd have come back, they'd have forced me to do it, and I was just like, is it more the people do that, step away from the flying because it's a lot more money, or is it like the title, the rank, the position? It's just expected you have to do it. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it's expected after a certain amount of time you have to do it, because
eventually you will have to do a desk job at some point. And as much as you don't want to do it, you need to be prepared for it, because it may happen, and then they'll say, well, you're in a position where you could be promoted, but you haven't done defence handwriting, you haven't done the junior officer command course. It's like, well, actually, it's just expected that you have to do it. And if you don't do it, they'll go, oof, a bit of a webble, and then that gets you a bit of a bad name, and then you don't get the postings you want and stuff like that. So, got to play the game.
Yeah. Well, Kip, as you can see, the battery's running out. It's flashing here, but I want to say thank you very much for...
You're welcome.
It's been an
Anytime.
absolute pleasure.
Cheers, me old China.
And check out Kip's interviews and Q&As on the channel. You'll find them. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Cheers.